Well, how are we doing on this hump day? I'm on the front porch. It's beautiful weather. It's like 63, somewhere around there. Little slight breeze coming in. Sun is in my eyes. I'm trying not to, let it bother me too much. It does bother me in this side, but, I gotta suffer a little bit to make a video, so it's no big deal. My computer tower is ready. I just have to go pick it up. I would have picked it up this afternoon, except for the guy that runs the shop. His dad's in real bad health, and he wasn't there today, which, I don't have an issue with it. I've already been a weekish without it. It's not hurting me none. Sergeant Major is the guy that basically worked on my computer for me. I told him, I said, take as long as it takes. I said, because, I told him, I said, I'd rather you find something that you might have missed versus being like, everything's good and be like, whoops, I made a mistake, which he's not like that, but, human error can be anything, no matter how good you are, there's always going to be human error. So it is what it is. But probably tomorrow, I should have my computer back with my tower back. And I have to reload programs and everything else and put other stuff on there, but it's no big deal. The only problem is going to be is my video card. He had to put another one in there for me because my youngest decided to crank up the video card on one of the games he was playing, and he fried my video card. So like I told him, I said, well, that's fine. I said, because when I get it back, that game you play is not going to go on there. You're going to have to find something else to play it on because it's not going back on my system again. Because this makes 2 times since 2020 that he's gotten on there and done something stupid and screwed up my system. And yeah, it's not happening. Might have to buy him a cheap laptop or something and let him do it on there, but yeah, he's not going to be on, his game's not going to be on my system anymore. But I did get an upgrade on my system. He actually updated me on a different type of Windows and everything else, but I did have, because I was running such an antique section of Windows that he even asked me, he goes, I'm surprised the thing even booted up. I said, yeah, I know. But I do have upgrades on it, which would be good for me. It'll run a lot better. This afternoon, me and Junior came out here. We put in a bunch more onion starts, or starts. I don't know, onions anyway. Repositioned some of the plants I have, because I had a couple of plants that were like leaned over and stuff like that, so I took some poles and put them beside it to raise them up more and tie them off. And there's other things I gotta do still around the yard to adequately do the way I want it to be done. We also set one of my other grapes we got not too long ago, a few days ago. We put it back here, dug a hole, stuck it back there so it can grow up and across the trellis part of the thing that I put up there for the grapes to go across. I got a bunch of black raspberry plants that are, they're doing their thing, which is good for this time of year. I got a couple more like thornless blackberries. I got some more over there. I'm going to put them back here along the black raspberries across the back side of the fence over here between me and my side neighbor. You can see his house right there. I think it's his house there. It's somewhere around here. He's behind me. I know you can see it. And of course, like Junior said, he's like, yeah, the good thing about that is we'll get blackberries and stuff like that, and when they grow across and through the fence, he'll get some. I said, it's fine with me. I mean, we kind of help each other out on certain things back and forth. Nothing really major, just like small little minor things. But the thing of it is, if he can get some free berries just for being my neighbor, I'd much rather have him come back here and pick as much as he wants and, enjoy him at least. But there's a few other things around the yard. I'm still working on some kinks out, trying to figure out, I'm trying to calculate when the trees are fully leaved out, the shade patterns and where about they're going to be at and everything else, which is kind of hard this time of year because there's nothing on the trees. But being from last summer, I mean, you have a pretty good idea. Of course, I've trimmed up some branches and cut some pieces off here and there, which is going to alleviate about a foot or two of, you know, more sunshine versus shade, stuff like that. So there's a buddy of mine that he's a logger, and I've kind of dropped some subtle hints of like, hey, you know, if you want some free wood, just come over here and cut some sunbitches down. You can take everything you cut, and whatever you don't take, just pile off to the side, and I'll cut it up and burn it up eventually. But he hasn't, you know, said yay or nay or anything like that, because he does a lot of basically he goes out and cuts certain kinds of wood, and he'll cut it down and split it and chunk it and everything else and let it get nice and seasoned. And he sells to like a bunch of places around here that buy certain specialty woods for barbecuing and cooking and stuff like that. And he makes fire starters from some of the sawdust and everything. He does all kinds of stuff. But, you know, of course he hasn't said yay or nay, which I'm kind of hoping he'll come up here and, you know, take a couple out of the yard for me. But if he does it, I understand, because, you know, a lot of people don't want to do a barbecue with poplar. Now, you might do good for wood stove, or, you know, because some of the trunks I have, you know, you could probably get a few slabs out of the trunks, you know, to make like a furniture grade slab. But, you know, he don't do furniture, he does wood cutting for firewood and firewood accessories. So it's just one of those things. I'm trying to get something up for free for nothing to benefit somebody else, but yeah, it ain't working too good. I can keep trying though, is all I can say. I made a batch of dandelion jelly yesterday, or the day before yesterday. Small batch. I'm seeing dandelions pop up all over the place. I mean, like all over the place. But everywhere around me, my yard, my neighbor side yard, stuff like that, I ain't seeing hardly none. It's disheartening. Last year we had so many dandelions out in the yard that you couldn't shake a stick at. You know, we were here picking for like 20 or 30 minutes and got like a gallon of dandelion. Now this year, you know, I was lucky to get a couple of cups, and that was about it. Now, the good thing about that, with the dandelions not being so plentiful in my yard, means my yard soil is in really good condition. And because usually when you see a bunch of dandelions in people's yards, that means the soil content is either really acidic, or the soil's crappy, or there's a bunch of clay. So in some ways, not having as many dandelions in my yard this year is a plus, but at the same time it's a negative, because I was hoping a bunch more would pop up like last year so I can make an ass ton of jelly with it. And you know, it means I have to go around and find out if people sprayed certain areas, and if they haven't, go out there picking hog wild and go crazy picking dandelions, because my goal is before market, which is April 16th, is to have at least 3 cases of jelly made, whether it be half pint, quarter pint, or pint-sized jar. You know, 3 cases of something of that nature. But if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. I guess I'll have to, you know, wish upon the main man upstairs and ask him for guidance to let me to find as many dandelions as possible. Now, there is another thing my yard is full of, which is wild violets, and people make jelly from that too, but I've had that jelly before. The jellies, I mean, when you have it in the jar, it's beautiful. It's like a rosy, not rosy, it's kind of like a reddish violet kind of color. It's a beautiful color, but the flavor isn't there. It's like, think of a non-flavored Jell-O that's sweet, and that's what it's like. And And if there is a flavor, I've never tasted it. And other people say, that tastes great. To me, it tastes like colored, flavorless syrup or jelly. And, you know, I just don't have the heart to pick all those little flowers, especially when bees can come in and, you know, bounce on them and get all kinds of nectar from it and everything else. What's up, kitty? Neighbor's tomcat. Well, what? Yeah, what? I don't mind him. He's kind of annoying sometimes with his meowing, but you know, I look at it this way. If he's out here catching moles, mice, and everything else, you know, hey, I don't mind at all. The only thing I'm gonna have to watch out for is him using my garden beds as a litter box. That's gonna be my only issue. Might have to get me a little BB gun and pop him in the ass or something every time I see him in there. Get a Red Ryder BB gun. All thing that's gonna do is bruise his butt and make his ego kind of bad, but you know, it is what it is. I know some of y'all out there, when as soon as I said get a BB gun and shoot him in the butt, y'all are like, oh my God, that's animal cruelty. No, it's not. Animal cruelty is when you get a crossbow and you shoot him with it, or you get a 22 and you shoot him with it. That's animal cruelty. Using a BB gun that won't break skin to get his attention, that's not animal cruelty. It's called an attention getter. But it is what it is. What? You been fed? We feed him on the side too, so. But yeah, I mean, everything's been going pretty well smooth. We went this past weekend, actually this past Sunday, and I got a lot of the lumber that I need to frame my back room / mud room, however you want to call it. It's going to be like a porch, except for it's going to be an enclosed porch. That's why I just call it a mud room, because that's basically what a mud room is. It's an enclosed porch. The only thing we didn't do, we didn't get the lumber for the floor. We didn't get none of the stuff for the roof, like when we put the roof cap on. But basically everything's going to be framed, like skeleton formed. And then after that, you know, we'll have to, you know, I'll have to get some thin insulating foam to put on, like sheets to put on the floor part. Then put my flooring down on top of that. Because once I do all that, of course by then the roof will go on first, and then the floor will go on, and then after that goes on, I'll do the outside. And I haven't made my mind up if I'm going to use it's a certain type of USB kind of board. There's a name for it. They use it for a lot of certain sheds and houses and stuff. It's a waterproof on one side and like presswood on the other. There's a name for it, I just can't think top of my head. Or if I'm going to use actual metal and just use metal siding across the outside of it, and you know, of course, metal roof on top. But depending on what the price of that boarding is, and depending on what the price of a sheet of metal is, depends on which way I go with it. Because now, I know it's been some years, but I know when I did my carport on the metal siding on it, and actually to enclose the sides of it, a single sheet, which was I think it's like 4 or 4.5 foot wide, 8 foot long. A single sheet was like $40. And the last time I checked on the siding kind of thing for it, yeah, it was kind of up there. Of course, this was around the time of the so-called pandemic thing of the country shut down, and prices went through the roof as like crazy asinine price of it. So, depending what that price is nowadays versus the price of a sheet metal, that's going to depend on what my outside's going to be consisted of. Just once I do that, get the walls up, then I'm going to get some, I guess, rolled insulation and put it in between the things, and I might go and get me a probably that I caught the classic 1970 wood panel and just do the wood panel inside there and do it that way. I also asked one of my neighbors over here if if he'd help me put it together, and he said he would if he could. And he asked me if I was going to have any windows, and at first I said no, but honestly and truthfully I think I might put a window in there just because for to let some extra light in, because I don't want it to be completely like a cave in there, but and if I do put a window in, it's going to be a single window, nothing like 2 windows or 3 windows, just a single window, and do it that way. Of course, I have to get insulation for the outside as well, because I want to make sure that it's not going to be like your standard 2x4s like this, and nothing on the outside of it. So I'm going to have to get some of that foam matting or something to put across the outside of that, and then attach my other things like screwed in or nailed in or something. Maybe probably screws, because they do better. But yeah, it is what it is. But this coming weekend, as far as I know, my father-in-law had mentioned something about coming over here on the weekend and at least attempted to get some of this started. And just because he's retired, he has nothing to do, and he's bored most of the time. And like he says, at least when he comes over here and does stuff like this, to him it said if he feels like he has a purpose besides just sitting on the couch watching TV and just wasting his day away, which I don't mind, because I'm not a carpenter by any means. Because he's built all kinds of stuff, and I don't mind him. It's free labor for me. I don't have to pay somebody, and well, other than fixing him dinner or buying him dinner or something like that. But that's a lot cheaper doing it that way than it would be, say, push this a little bit, but more in focus, than having to pay somebody X amount of dollars to do the same kind of work and be out that much more money. But yeah, I mean, I had thought about adding some more things in my front piece over here, which I am going to, but I'm going to do it a different way. I got a bunch of these container buckets. I'm gonna do container buckets on top of concrete block and boards and have them up like raised bed kind of things. I got a bunch more containers over here. I'm gonna reuse again that from last year, plus I got some more. I got to drill holes in for water drainage. On my front yard piece, I'm still working on putting the barrier mat down and everything else. And but yeah, I mean, there's still a lot to do. I mean, officially for my area, unless it's cold hardy, you don't plant nothing until after Derby Day, or about a few days after Derby Day. It's usually like a week after Derby is when you plant, because about that time is blackberry winter is what we call it around here, and that's like the last part of your frost or your stuff like that. And then after that, you're free and clear to plant whatever. But I do think I'm going to plant, say, like the green beans, plant them like, I don't know, 2 weeks before May, and that way it gives them enough time to germinate, do their magic and everything. And if they do happen to start popping up, I can cover them with a sheet or something for the frost kind of thing. But yeah, a lot of your stuff around here, I mean, even though it's the last part of March going in the first part of April, unless you're planting like kale, cabbage, broccoli, of course onions, potatoes, stuff like that, you're kind of limited what you can plant in this area. But there's other things like I can put grapevines in, I can put the blackberry bushes in, stuff like that right now, and it's no big deal. But if I got some plants that have already, the ones that I've purchased, starting to have like blackberries on them, some flowers, stuff like that. But I would have to cover them up for to keep them from getting damaged from frosty weather. But other than that, really, I mean, everything's basically, for this area, it's kind of going the way it's supposed to, except for I don't have any dandelions in my yard to make jelly, which is kind of aggravating. But, it is what it is. I guess I'll have to get on Facebook and say, hey, anybody that got dandelions in the yard that doesn't spray the yard with chemicals, if you pick me a gallon-sized bag, I'll give you $20 for a gallon-sized bag of dandelions, which I know some people will laugh, think I'm crazy, and other people will pick it and want $20, and some people will pick them and won't ask for a dime. But it's how life goes. I mean, I got people I know. There's people I know that will, go out and pick them and give me a bag of it and just say, hey, once you get it made, give me a jar of jelly, which I'll be tickled pink with that, because the prices of jelly for containers and everything else this year, it's gone up. It really has, and it's really disheartening for me, because I try to give people as much as possible for as least as possible. And but when last year you're buying a case of jars for $8 a case, and now they're about $12 a case. Yeah, it hasn't gone up that much, but when you're buying 20 cases, so to say, from about this time of year until September, October, that's a lot of money. And not everything sells all the time, and so then here I am stuck holding a bunch of jars on certain things, and so yeah, it kind of sucks, but it is what it is. It's part. I guess it's part of business. That's all. That's the only thing I can say. It's part of business. And the good thing about it is, the very best thing I can say is this year I'm coming to market with guaranteed one new item, possibly another item. I gotta calculate and figure out what the actual cost is gonna cost me to make it, and to have it made reasonable without being too far in the budget line. Because if I can find me a small bunt size container, I thought about making some pineapple upside down cakes, and either selling the whole cake or slicing it and selling it by the piece, or doing both. One of the other things I'm going to be doing is making fried pies. I got one of my grandmother's old recipes for the mixture, and I got tons and tons and tons of dehydrated apples. And some dehydrated apples already have the cinnamon and sugar on it. So all I got to do is rehydrate them and stuff them in my things, and I got me a fried pie tool maker. So I figured if nothing else, it'll give Junior something to do, and he can cut, fill, and press. And I'm gonna have to get me another deep fryer, because the deep fryer that we use for the house we use it for everything. And Junior was dying to make fried pies with my device the other night, and he made some and put them in the deep fryer, which they came out, but they kind of tasted like chicken, kind of shrimp, some fish, French fries, and everything else. I mean, of course, the wife was like, she goes, "You're not going to eat one?" And I'm like, "Nah, I'm good. I don't want to eat all these different flavors with a fried pie," which technically I shouldn't be eating a fried pie to begin with. And that's another, and of course that's a good excuse I use as well. But at least when I do get my other deep fryer, I can be sure to have my separate deep fryer just for fried pies alone, and maybe a couple other fried kind of desserty kind of things. But other than that, really, man, that's about it. I've been sitting around doing yard work, pulling weeds and cutting. I partially mowed this side part of my yard this afternoon, just kind of dicking around just to see if my mower would start, and it did, which I'm kind of surprised, because there's been a few mornings it's been really cold. I'm really surprised that it turned over, which I'm kind of glad it did. But yeah, you know, we're kind of being held up right now because the only time here soon that I can go retrieve some more things for the yard to be, you know, progressive with is either when the wife has taken a nap or on the weekend. And Friday's supposed to piss pour rain, Saturday's supposed to be partially cloudy and then sunny in the afternoon and windy, and Sunday's supposed to be like 65, 70 and beautiful, nice and sunny. So it'll probably be Sunday-ish when I go up to Rural King up the road and I got to retrieve a hefty amount of items and have to use the trailer for it. So then we can finish doing some more things around the yard and basically twiddle thumbs and fingers until sometime in May we can start putting in tomato plants and pepper plants and bell peppers and, you know, this and that and yada yada yada, and everything that's not frost effective for this time of year. So, but yeah, we're gonna have a bunch more things, and once I get everything set up and everything, I don't care if there's plants in them or not. As long as I got my container set up and everything's done with all the not mulching, but laying the wood ash in the bed and all kinds of other things for extra nutrient form, and everything is set up and everything's done the way it's supposed to be done, I'll take this good old grand camera and I'll walk around the yard and I'll explain what I'm doing and done, what's going in what's going where. But until then, you know, it is what it is. I know this is kind of a long video and I'm sorry, but like I said, I haven't been on in a while. So many things I gotta talk about, but I don't have enough time. Because after so many minutes my camera switches to another segment and I can't have a long video because I'm like having to do two different things or deleting and starting over again. So I'll just go ahead and shut up. It's Wednesday. I believe the date's the 29th. I could be wrong, but I think it's the 29th. And once I get my tire done, back and set up, I'll be download this video and one prior to this one. And y'all get a 2-for-1, and I'll see y'all again soon with more information and more ideas, tricks and ideas off the top of my head, and y'all keep your nose clean and your powder dry and everything should be okay. Until then, I'll see you again soon.